Here's how it works. A person who is below 200 is someone who is moving against, who has to have an enemy, is someone who drains power, is always looking for energy from someone else, is trying to take it away from you. This is someone who needs to argue. This is someone who needs to prove a point. This is someone who needs to make you feel worse about yourself. And generally, when you're in the energy field of someone below 200, when they leave your energy space, when they leave the field that you are in them with them, you feel worse about yourself. You feel drained for having been in their experience. You feel weakened, and you feel as if you need to get away from that because they are drainers of energy. They take, and they need to confront, and they need to have an argument. Now, the difference is that a person above 200, particularly in the 300 and 400 range, is a person who never drains, but instead is someone who supplies energy. And when you're in the energy field of someone like this, they make you feel better about yourself. You not only feel better about yourself, but for having been in the presence of that person, you feel energized rather than having been depleted of your energy. Do you see the difference? You feel as if you can do things. You feel as if there's nothing that can stop you. You feel as if you've been awakened. You feel as if everything is going to work. And you have a sense of faith and a sense of beauty and a sense of knowing that there's goodness in the world. But mostly you have a good feeling about yourself. And it's all because of being in the energy field of someone who calibrates to a higher frequency. They don't take, they give. They don't argue, they supply. They don't want from you, they offer you. People will say to me over and over and over again, I understand what you're saying. It makes a lot of sense. And I, of course, am operating at a much higher level than all of those people around me. And the people who really need to hear this message are not here today. They're back home watching a football game or whatever it is that they're doing. But they obviously wouldn't even come to this because I'm at such a much higher spiritual level. But I'm in the energy field of people who are always bringing me down. They're cruel. They're nasty, they're inconsiderate, they're not compassionate, they're vicious, they're hateful, they're any number of things that I don't want or can't tolerate in my life. And they bring me down. You've heard it, you've said it. They bring me down. My husband doesn't understand me. My boss doesn't get it. The people around me don't get it. It's a lousy, hateful world out there. There's a lot of people out there who are mean. There are a lot of people who are represented by those people that we quote call our enemies and so on. And I'm in that energy field and I can't help but being brought down. And I always ask myself, and I respond to that with imagine how Jesus would respond to such an observation. Like, I don't want to be over there with all of those thieves. You know, I can't go over there. I just can't be around them because they just bring me down. And you laugh because it's too absurd. Those prostitutes over there, they're just filthy. Those are just people that, they bring me down, so I stay away from them. I don't want to be around them. That wasn't his way. And I suggest to you that the reason that people with lower energies bring you down is not because it is them that are bringing you down, but it is because you join them in responding to them with the same energy that you despise. So if someone hates you and you hate them for hating you, you have responded to force with a counterforce. Anything above 200 is power. It's empowerment. Anything below 200 is force. If you get angry at somebody for being angry at you, if you get upset with somebody who is upsetting, if you get hateful towards someone who is acting hateful towards you, in your thoughts or in your actions, that is what it is that is bringing you down. But if you learn something else, something that St. Francis taught us in this prayer of St. Francis, this prayer isn't just a Catholic prayer. The prayer of Francesco is an 800-year-old technology for spiritual problem solving. Indeed, there is a spiritual solution to every problem. I went through a couple of quotes. One was from Valerie Hunt's book, The Infinite Mind, which is the display quote for the 6th chapter of Spiritual Solution. She said, "But I do not believe that man can perceive his godlike qualities until his field reaches higher and higher vibrations and attains a greater degree of coherency. No matter how hard we may try to receive spiritual guidance, we cannot until our fields are attuned to that vibrational system called God." Let me share that with you again. "But I do not believe that man can perceive his godlike qualities until his field reaches higher and higher vibrations and attains a greater degree of coherency." So that you can sit there in anger and in fear and in shame and all of the reactions in your life that compute to make you weak, and that will make sense shortly. And you can never come to know God according to the mind field theory that Dr. Hunt espouses and talks about, and according to a spiritual solution to every problem. Because when you're not at peace, you have sent your body into a vibrational field of energy in which you have allowed your mind to create the error or the illusion that you and God are no longer connected. And that begins to take over. And as hard as you may try, and no matter what you may do, until you can raise the frequency at which you vibrate, until you can raise the energy level at which you experience life, and move out of the lower and slower frequencies and into the higher frequencies, you will not be able to access and negotiate the presence of a spiritual solution to your problems.
You see, the intellect has trouble with this, because the intellect is the mind and the mind is the ego. If you ask most people, where is your center? Where are you centered? They will point to their head. Where do you originate from? Where is your source? Where is your ability to think and to process? They will point to their head, and they will say, it's in my brain. My brain is what makes me be able to think and be able to understand concepts and so on. If you ask a spiritual being, where is your source? Where is your center? What is it that gives you the ability to understand these great miraculous things? They will point to their heart. And so, heart consciousness is very different than head consciousness. The head consciousness is one which tries to analyze it, tries to figure it out, and has a great deal of difficulty with it because it's coming from this position of separateness. The heart is your intuition. The heart is the part of you that says, I know and I trust, and it works for me, and I don't have to convince anyone else of it. And once you have this, even prayer becomes not like, most people think of prayer as like, God is like this huge vending machine in the sky, all right? And I put in my tokens, and I behave in a certain way, and certain things are going to come to me. But there's an authentic kind of prayer that is very different than this. And this kind of prayer is one in which your prayer is in communion with God rather than separation from. I turn it over to this higher part. But it's not something that I'm ever separate from. That's trust. That kind of trust, in combination with knowing that you're no longer afraid of being God. Know ye that ye are gods. And I am in you, and you are in me, and I am in the Father, and the Father is in me. It's like this is something that we are being taught, and yet we have been conditioned almost to subscribe to another idea which says that I am not trustworthy, I am separate from, I can't do those things. That has to be transcended. You have to understand that in terms of people using it to give fear to you. And our greatest fear is the fear that we're going to be alone, that we're going to be abandoned. But this universal intelligence that is everywhere, this divine intelligence that is universal, that is in all things, how can it abandon us? Wherever we go, it's there. When you trust in that and know it without any doubt, you begin to see it everywhere. You see it in the flowers. You see it in the sunsets. You see it in your babies and in your mother-in-law. You see it in all places. And what you're doing when you see it is you're recognizing that I am worthy, and I am important, and I am significant. Yes, I am connected to God. I am what God is doing. And that's the subject of the next person. Honoring your worthiness to receive. Thank you.
Equanimity is nothing more than being at one with God. It is what... I was down in Australia just interviewing me, and a woman asked me, she said, what is your mission? And I said, without even realizing what I said, my mission is God realization. And she said, what do you mean by that? I said, that's where every thought that I have is on an equal level with the source that I came from. You see, there's a link between ourselves and this source. The problem is that the link is corroded. The link is dirty. It's got all kinds of ego identifiers in the way of it. All we have to do is figure out a way to cleanse that link. And the more you shed these layers of ego, that I am better than everybody else, I am what I do, I am my reputation, I am what others think of me, I am separate from everybody else. Once we get rid of all of these ego identifiers and remove them, what we do is we get to that place where we see God, we see love, we see peace in everything and everyone that we encounter. That's all it takes. That's what equanimity is. Well, the major difference between spirituality and religion is that religion is something that divides us, and spirituality is something that unites us. And anything that divides us weakens us. If I were to do a muscle test with you right now, ask you to think about a thought that excludes some and includes others. Just think of that thought, that I'm a man and you are a woman, or I am anything that divides me from you. And I do a muscle test, and I just put your arm down. You would find that when you think thoughts that divide us, you get weaker. And then if I were to ask you to just think of a thought that unites us, just think of yourself like the Native Americans used to say, that no tree has branches so foolish as to fight among themselves.
Aren't we raised to believe that being religious has merit?
Yeah, we're raised, but we're also raised to believe that we are what we do, and we are what we have, and we are what other people think of us. And the fact is that all of us know that we're just in temporary bodies, that these bodies are on their way to someplace else. But we're raised to believe that. We're also raised to believe that we're sitting here still, when in fact we're orbiting around the sun, we're turning on our axis, and we're hurling through space at hundreds of thousands of miles per hour. But yet we're taught all of these things, and to trust your senses and to trust what other people tell us. But there's a place within us, a deep, peaceful, loving, knowing place that know that who I am is not a human being here having a spiritual experience. It's the reverse, that who I really am is a spiritual being having a temporary human experience. That's who I am, and that's where you have to live.
An elderly spiritual teacher whose name is Sai Baba, who lives in India, comes to you in your dreams.
Right.
Who is Sai Baba? Why does he come to you, and what does he tell you?
I'm not sure why he comes to me. It just started happening several years ago. I started lecturing about this being, and this is someone who lives at God consciousness, who has what is said of Jesus, the gift of fish and loaves. So that the ability to manifest, for example, all of us have the ability to manifest something, but usually there's a time line between what we think about and what we create. Deepak Chopra and I put together a series of tapes one time, and we talked about the 4 ways to get strawberry ice cream. So the lowest way to get strawberry ice cream is to have a thought, gee, I'd really like to have some strawberry ice cream. And then you get up and go to the store and you go get your strawberry ice cream. And you had a thought, an invisible thing, and you got on your bicycle, you walked and you came back, and that's the miracle. But it's the second way to get strawberry ice cream is to have a thought and stay right where you are and tell your children to go get it. Okay, so that's like you're sitting there and they go get it for you. So that's the second way. The third way is to have a thought, gee, I'd really like to have some strawberry ice cream. And somebody walks by and says to you, excuse me, is this your strawberry ice cream? And when that happens, we call this synchronicity, and isn't that it is like this collaboration with fate? Isn't this amazing thing? I was just thinking about strawberry ice cream, and everybody's had that experience. But the highest way to strawberry ice cream is to have a thought, gee, I'd really like to have some strawberry ice cream, and then you manifest it. And Sai Baba lives at that level of consciousness where there's no delay between a thought. It's called the gift of fish and loaves, the ability to be able to manifest from your thoughts, because you're living at such a level, such a high vibrational level, that your thoughts and what you are thinking about all become one, that everything is one, and he lived in that oneness.
If you call my cell phone, pick up the phone, I'm not going to give that number, but if you were to call this number, this is what you would get as a message from me. Hi, this is Wayne Dyer that you've reached, and I want to feel good. If your call is designed to do anything other than that, you have reached the wrong number, and I urge you to call Dr. Phil. But feeling good is perhaps the most important thing that I can talk to you about here in cleaning up this link. If you open up the Torah, this ancient spiritual text, the Old Testament, and go to the very opening lines, Genesis 1:1, it says, what? In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. Pretty simple. God is infinite. Out of this source came all the material worlds. And then if you read down 31 lines later, it says, and all that God created was good. So good and God are synonymous, aren't they? Good and God, just an O, just one extra O. So that when you say, I want to feel good, as you'll see as this program unfolds, you're really saying, in a way, I want to feel God. I want to feel whatever this beautiful source of all, this divine mind, this source of all things, I want to feel what it feels. Now you might say to yourself, yeah, it's easy to say I want to feel good, but how can I feel good when so much around me is bad? How can I feel good if my sister-in-law has cancer? And how can I feel good if I know that over on the other side of this planet there are people who are starving to death? And how can I feel good if there are people who are poor and I have money, and there are people who are starving? And how can I feel good when my children act in the way that they act? Or how can I feel good? And I suggest to you that when you say I want to feel good, what you're saying is I want to feel God. I want to feel this. I want to connect here. And I want to offer this to you as a very important and powerful piece of advice that came to me years ago. You cannot get sick enough to heal one person on this planet. And you cannot get poor enough to make one person wealthy on this planet. And you cannot get confused enough to unconfuse one person on this planet. No amount of your feeling bad, when you say feeling bad, what you do is you lose your connection to Source. And when you lose your connection to Source, what happens is you create something called resistance. I can't do this. It's not possible. I don't deserve it. It's just not something that I can do. And when you create this kind of resistance, you have emotions. And these emotions become sadness, fear, worry, anxiety. And what I'd like to offer you is a way for you to use these emotions that you are experiencing at any time in your life and use them as a system, as a barometer, as a guidance system to say to yourself, what kinds of thoughts am I having that are keeping me from being in rapport with this field of intention? And at any moment that you're not feeling good, you are attracting exactly the opposite of what it is that you would like to attract into your life. You are using this as a way to keep yourself from feeling God or feeling good. If you are listening to the news, and the news is filled with all of the reasons why you should be depressed, and it's not an accident that then they are sponsored by all of the reasons why you should take these narcotics or these pills or whatever it is in order to get over. So here's some depression, and wait a minute, we'll be right back. Here's a way out of it, okay? And every thought that you have that says I can't do it is resistance to connecting to Source. And every thought that you have that says it's never worked before, that's resistance to connecting to this Source, to what is being, what I call vibrating through Source energy, getting back to having your desires, what you want to create in vibrational harmony with this highest energy in the universe. My teacher in India one time, Nisargadatta Maharaj, said, when he was asked the question, there's wars going on in Pakistan, there's people having difficulties here, there's people dying, there's starvation. How can you say that I can heal myself, and how can you be at peace when you see all of this going around? And you know what he said to his devotee? He said, in my world, nothing ever goes wrong. What a powerful idea that is.
And I remember reading in some of Castaneda's later works saying that freedom is really a disappearing act. It's like you have to learn how to disappear your ego. And the absolute lack of concern about yourself and how things affect you and how self-absorbed you are and how important you are and their need to be right all the time and all of that. This is all stuff that is part of a paradigm that we have been taught because we believe in this, ego, which stands for edging God out. Our ego is the part of us that is our false self. And I say that without qualification. It is the part of us that would have us believe that we are separate from, that we are more important than, that we are special. And I want to tell you right now, folks, if you want to understand higher awareness, you got to get off of this thing that you are special. You are not special in the eyes of God or anyone else. It implies, if you're special, that someone else is not, doesn't it? And if everyone is special, then we don't need a word like that, do we? To specify who is and who isn't. We are all divine creations, extensions of God. Every single one of us. No one better, no one more important, no one more advanced, no one prettier, no one more anything. And this whole idea that we have been carrying around with us about what it is that offends us, and what it is that we find difficult to live with, and how important it is for us to be right and to make other people wrong. All of this stuff is an absence of higher awareness. And you've got to somehow figure out a way to transcend it. And know and begin to believe in something that you can't see. Believe in something that you can't see. I wrote a story. I'm going to share just a part of it with you. It's a story that I open up this Your Sacred Self with. The story goes like this. Imagine this scene. Two babies are in utero, womb mates. Confined to the wall of their mother's womb, and they are having a conversation. Okay, just willingly suspend, just let this in, okay? Two little twins having a conversation.
For the sake of clarity, we'll call these twins ego and spirit. Spirit says to ego, I know you're going to find this difficult to accept, but I truly believe there is life after birth. Ego responds, don't be ridiculous. Look around you. This is all there is. Why must you always be thinking about something beyond this reality? Why don't you just accept your lot in life? Make yourself comfortable. Forget about all these life after birth nonsense. Go in the corner and grab your cord and knock it off. Spirit quiets down for a while, but her inner voice won't allow her to remain silent any longer. Ego, now don't get mad, but I have something else to say. I also believe that there is a mother. A what? A mother. A mother? How can you be so absurd? You've never seen a mother? Why can't you accept that this is all there is? The idea of a mother is crazy. You are here, alone, with me. This is your reality. It's wet. It's cold. It's crowded. This is it. Trust me, there is no mother. Trust me. Spirit reluctantly stops her conversation with ego, but her restlessness soon gets the better of her. Ego, she implores, now listen, without rejecting my idea, just listen. Somehow I think that those constant pressures that we both feel, you know, those movements that make us so uncomfortable, that continual repositioning and all of that closing in that seems to be taking place as we keep on growing, that this is all getting us ready for a place of glowing light, and we're going to experience it very soon. Now I know you're insane, replies ego. All you've ever known is darkness. You've never seen light. How can you even contemplate such an idea? Those movements, those pressures you feel, these are your reality. You are a distinct, separate being. This is your journey. Darkness and pressures and a closed-in feeling. This is what life is all about. You're going to have to fight it as long as you live. Now grab your cord and stay still. Spirit relaxes for a while, but finally she can contain herself no longer. Ego, I have only one more thing to say, and then I'll never bother you again. Go ahead, ego responds. Go ahead, impatiently. I believe all of these pressures and all of this discomfort is not only going to bring us a new celestial light, but when we experience it, we are going to meet Mother face to face and know an ecstasy that is beyond anything we've ever experienced up until now. You really are crazy, Spirit. Now I'm convinced of it. And so you see the metaphor, don't you? I don't even have to explain it.
I was honored to participate in a collection of writings, which we have some here, called The Experience of God. Myself, Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson, Mother Teresa, the Dalai Lama, Louise Hay, Ram Dass, Bernie Siegel, Scott Peck, Joan Borisenko, and 30 others. People I'm honored to be in there. We all wrote about our direct experience, our direct conscious contact with God. The experience of God. There's 40 of us that wrote in there. And making conscious contact with God through this thing called inspiration. When I'm inspired, I never ever get concerned about being hungry. I never get tired when I'm inspired. When I'm writing, I can go away and write for day after day. Sleep an hour a day, 2 hours a day. Drink nothing but water. Don't feel hungry. The right people always seem to show up. I go to the mailbox and the right, the thing that seemed to be missing before is always right there for me. The telephone rings, it'll be someone calling, and I wrote about some of that in Wisdom of the Ages. When I was stuck on something when I was away writing one of these essays, Deepak picked up the phone, and only 2 people in the whole world knew my phone number where I was in seclusion. It was my wife and my other wife, Deepak. And I told him that, and I wrote about it in there, and he gave me something in that talk that it just put, like, they say it in Sanskrit that when the student is ready, the teachers appear. What is the context in which you can move out of individual and group consciousness and into mystical consciousness or unity consciousness? It is only available, as far as I know, through this process called meditation. You can't do it any other way. And with meditation, the very opening essay in here was from Blaise Pascal and Pythagoras, two of the greatest scientists who ever walked among us. And Pascal in the 16th, 17th century said, all of man's troubles stem from his inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Most of us just don't know how to get quiet. And it is like, I tell people, don't learn to meditate or don't practice meditation because it will make you feel younger, which it will. It'll even make you look younger, which it will. Because it takes the stress right out of your skin, right out of your life. Don't learn to meditate and practice meditation on a daily basis because it will give you the equivalent of a night's rest in 20 minutes, which it will. But learn and practice meditation because it is the only way that you can transcend the duality of the physical plane. Jesus was known as a non-dual being. No right, wrong, beginnings, ends, male, female, none of that. Only the one. And in silence, silence is like zero. You cut it in half and you still have only zero. You can't divide silence. It's the oneness. Melville said God's one and only voice is silence.
And it's really just closing my eyes and creating like a pastel field. And my mind can create any color that I want, which is just so astounding. You think you need your eyes to create it, and you don't at all. And I create that field. In my mind, I put a barrier around that field, and I won't let anything into it. And any thought that tries to penetrate that barrier sort of bounces back. And it takes about 2 or 3 minutes to get yourself like totally relaxed. Now, I don't really believe that anybody can just not think at all. I think that's part of the trap. It's part of the human condition that thinking always goes on. Even thinking about not thinking is still thinking. But you don't have extraneous thoughts. You get like single-minded. And this is wonderful, wonderful training for anyone. And so it's like as you do that and you just won't let a thought in and you won't let a thought in and you won't let a thought in, you become very, very, very relaxed. And then you can create whatever you want. I create a light. It's like a white light, a spotlight way off in the distance in my mind. And I approach it. I just keep coming closer and closer and closer to it with this pastel field, keeping any thoughts from bombarding it. It's amazing how at the beginning, when you first start this, how it's hard to go 5 seconds. 5 seconds without having some kind of thought impingement. Boom, all of a sudden you catch yourself doing that. Then you get to 10 seconds, you get to 30 seconds, and before long, you can do a couple of minutes. And as I move and move towards the light, for many years, I was afraid of the light. I would get close to it, and I knew that if I went into it, that something was going to happen that I didn't know. And so I'd always sort of approach it, and then I'd come back. And then I allowed myself just to go through it. I just surrendered to it. I said, I can handle it. I created miracles in that space for myself. And in the world that I came back to when I left the meditation as well. I do that on a regular basis. The result, the peacefulness, the harmony, the serenity, the energy that you begin to get when you just take a few minutes a day, 10 or 15 minutes a day, put yourself into a sensory deprivation kind of atmosphere, a tub of water, under a tree, in a meadow, and just go into your mind.
The wake is a trail that is left behind. Can the trail that is left behind make the boat go forward? So now you have to look at your life and all of the things that have transpired in your life and ask yourself what's making your life go in the direction that it's going. Well, it's the present moment energy that is being generated by your mind, by your thoughts, that is making your... And one of the great ironies, I've been studying some of the teachings of a man named Bashar. Anybody in here ever hear of Bashar? Very, very interesting information. He talks about these different dimensions of being. He calls them densities. So in this third dimension, or the third density, we have something called cause and effect. So you do this, and it creates this, okay? And we have a tendency to believe that when I do this, it makes this happen. And then he said we move into the fourth density. I'm not going to go into all of this now, but into the fourth density, in which there is no cause and effect, in which every single moment is disconnected from the next moment, and that the present is not created by the past. This is just something to really ponder, because it's going to get really good when we get to the satsang. The present is not created by the past. The past is created by the present in the fourth density, in the fourth dimension. And that's the dimension where you leave the world of cause and effect, and you realize that everything that ever happened to you up until this moment happened to you in the present. And in quantum physics teaches us that there is no such thing as time, and it does, that it's all one, especially in the world of spirit, in the world of God, it's all one. Then the past is something that we are creating now. And the idea, this exciting, exquisite idea, that you can change the past by becoming something different in the present, becomes a reality. Now, you're all saying, that's just too far out, I can't do that, that's just too weird, I can't do that. But the truth of it is, for 1/3 of your entire life here on this planet, while you are asleep, you're able to do just what I just described. You can create any past that you want. And you have left this dead thing laying on the bed. It's just, you've just left, life has left it, it's just there. And you're off someplace else, creating the past that you want, right? And creating the future that you want. Higher consciousness is something in which we can create a whole new way of being when we get past, and then he talks, that's the fourth density, or the fourth dimension, where you begin to realize that there is no cause and effect, that everything is just, one moment is not connected to the next. What you did a month ago is not connected to what you are doing today, even though this linear mind of yours has convinced you that it's absolutely why this happened. The fact is, in a quantum sense, everything is being recreated every moment, every moment. Your whole body is being recreated every moment, every moment. And now this may not seem like an important thing for you to know, but when you get a hold of this idea, it's like one of the elements that you need in order to reach a higher level of consciousness is you've got to give up your personal history. You've just got to give it up. I have a quote over here from Castaneda. He said, one day I finally realized that I no longer needed a personal history. And just like drinking, I gave it up. And that, and only that, has made all the difference in my life. If you can just give up this idea that what happened to you in the past is why you are the way you are, it's akin to saying that the thing that is moving this ship is the wake, which is nothing more than a trail that is left behind. And you can change that wake, which we don't think we can do. But remember, for 1/3 of your life, you're able to do it. And to me, higher consciousness is what Thoreau said. It's becoming a waking dreamer. It's what an alchemist is. Someone who can... An alchemist isn't someone who takes something that is bad and throws it out and then brings something good in. An alchemist is someone who takes something that is bad, like lead, and turns it into gold. It's what St. Francis said where there is hatred, let me bring love. Where there is darkness, let me bring light. In other words, become an alchemist. Being able to change what is into that which is aligned with your source of being.
Rumi said, this ancient Persian poet, brilliant, beautiful poet, he said, sell your cleverness and purchase bewilderment. It feels like bewilderment. It feels like awe. It feels like, even as I think about it now, I can feel myself tearing up behind my eyes, because only I know what is going on behind my eyeballs. It feels like so glorious and so sweet and so trusting, so knowing. You know, there's just this powerful knowing that you're not alone. There's this, that it's like there's a safety, there's a sense of that you're not alone. I had this great experience years ago. There's a friend of mine, he's on KTAR, a radio station in Phoenix. His name's Pat McMahon, Irish Catholic guy. And Mother Teresa is to be his guest, right, on the same day that I'm his guest. So we're in the studio, and Mother Teresa comes in. Now she's about 4'10", maybe weighs 80 pounds. And she's there to talk about a homeless shelter that she slept in the night before, to tell the people of Phoenix about this homeless shelter. And I'm there to talk about a book that I don't know which one it was. It was 10, 15 years ago, so Pat tells Mother Teresa, "Is there anything that I can do for you?" And you can imagine the bewilderment and the awe that this is an Irish Catholic guy from, living in Phoenix, and Mother Teresa, a saint, is coming there, and he's just bewildered. He's beyond bewildered. He just doesn't know what to do with himself. He's just so honored, and he says, "Is there anything I can do for you? Is there anything I can do?" And she said, "No." She said, "I just came here to talk about the homeless shelter." He said, "But Mother Teresa," he said, we have a 50,000 watt clear channel station that goes in every direction." And it was like he's got his ego involved. Like we can help you to raise a lot of money for your work and your mission in Calcutta. And she said, "No, I'm not interested in raising money or your radio station getting a." She said, "I just want to talk about the homeless shelter, that's all." And he's exasperated. And finally he's down on his knees. Really. And finally she says, "Stand up." She said, "You seem so serious." She said, "There is one thing that you can do." And he just stood up and he said, "Well, what is it? I'd do anything." She said, "Well, tomorrow morning," she said, "get up at 4 a.m. And she said, and go out onto the streets of Phoenix and find someone who's living there, who believes that he's alone, and convince him that he's not. That's what you can do." And behind the feeling we're talking about here is this feeling of aloneness for so many people who are lost in the world, that I don't have like a connection to something greater than myself. I've come to believe that who I am is what I do, and what I have, and what other people think about me, and who I am is separate from everybody else, and who I am is separate even from what I'd like to attract into my life, that I'm separate from all the things that are missing, and I'm separate even from God, and that there's a place within me that knows that I'm not separate from any of that, that if there's no place that God is not, or that source is not, or the energy that provides, that is always giving and always creating is not, if there's no place that it is not, then it has to be in me. I know that. And if there's no place that it's not, and it has to be in me, it has to be also in everything that is missing in my life, or that I think is missing. It's there too. So that in some mysterious, invisible way, I'm already connected to everything that's missing in my life through something called spirit. And when I recognized that I'm not here as this human being having a spiritual experience, when you recognize that your essence is that you are a spiritual being, having a human experience, not the other way around. When you really get that, I mean, not that you can say it and it's clever, but when you know that who you are is this essence, you don't see, there's no other, there's no them. There's nothing outside of you. You're connected to everyone and everything. As the Native Americans, you'd say that no tree has branches so foolish as to fight among themselves.
How can you surrender and let go and become detached from the outcome and the stuff that you seek after in your life? How can you do that and still have the things that you want come into your life? How does that paradox work? One of the things that I have learned in my own speaking is to let go of the outcome, to be unconcerned with the reaction and what's in it for me, and indeed to just surrender. And in my meditation before I speak, I always repeat the mantra endlessly over and over again, and I find myself doing this more and more in my life, and something that I urge you to do. I ask the question, how may I serve? Just, how may I serve? How may I serve? How may I serve? There are 1,000 people there. How may I serve them? It's like getting the focus off of what's in it for me and how do I look and whether I say the right thing and whether people like what I say and whether they buy things that I have or whatever. And instead, like letting all of that go. Just letting that go. And getting the focus of your life, the centeredness of your life on this business of serving. And the irony of it is that when you get to that point where you're able to do it and let go of that outcome, all of the stuff that you chased after and worked so hard for and figured you had to have back here begins to chase after you and show up in your life. And it isn't you're no longer on the treadmill. It's like a surrendering. And so that's what I do when I come on stage. And it's almost as if God says to me, it's like, as long as you stay on purpose, you'll never stumble. And you'll know what to say. And when you get off of that, and you shift your alignment away from that, then you won't be able to do what you're doing. And the same thing happened in the writing of this Real Magic. For the first time in my life, I experienced what I have come to call automatic writing, where I left home and went off to Maui and sat down and in 8 weeks' time just produced this book without any struggle whatsoever, not one moment of struggle. And it just seemed to be there, and it seemed to flow. And I can type, like when I sit down and type a letter or a contract or anything that I might have to put out on a typewriter, I'm one of these kind of typists. I just look around. I can do it rather quickly, but I have never had the formal training in typing. But when I write at this little typewriter, I can go along and close my eyes and write at 70 and 80 words a minute when you get into that automatic. And I can't tell you how I do that, because I had completely let go. And I wasn't concerned with whether the editors liked it, how it came out, whether or not it was a bestseller, whether people were going to buy it, whether the reviews were going to be. Nothing. It was like very, very peaceful. And it's a very peaceful place that I'm asking you to look at and get to in your own life.
I learned to do it about 10 years ago when I really honed this, and that was when I was speaking in Houston. There were about 3,500 people who had all paid a lot of money to come and hear me, and it was an evening with Wayne Dyer. And I had all my notes all arranged in exactly the way I wanted to, and everything was just exactly perfect. I was backstage doing the pacing that you do before you go on, and the meditating and the right. breathing, and just getting yourself relaxed and your sort of divine guidance that you're seeking. And I realized that I didn't have my notes. They were gone.
Yes.
And they were back in the hotel room, which was 30 minutes away, and I was going on in 10 minutes. So I walked out on stage without any notes for the first time, and I surrendered. In that 10-minute period of time, I just said, All right, you know what you're doing, and you know how to do it, and you're good at this, and you're here for a reason. And there are 3,501 people in the room, in this room, and you're the one who's speaking, and 3,500 have paid to come and hear you. There must be a reason for that, and so get on purpose. Get on purpose. Get off of your outcome. Get off of how well you do. Get off of how much money you're being paid. Get off of all of that, and get on to what are you here for?
Yeah.
And you're here to improve the quality of life for somebody else. That's all you can do. When you leave this planet, the measure of your life won't be in what you accumulated. Yeah. It will be in what you gave. Since you can't get anything anyway, it's in giving. So I surrendered, and that was the beginning for me of surrendering. I've never used notes since in my life. It's not that I'm not prepared. I meditate before, and I know what I want to do.
See, what you have to learn is that I read a wonderful line when I was down in Australia by an actress who was talking, and she concluded it with, she said, if you want to make God laugh, tell her your plans. See, God's plan works, essentially, and yours doesn't. Basically. It's like becoming a spiritual being really means shifting away from your plans and allowing yourself into this divine perfection.